Within Inkscape, path effects are the easiest way to make complex designs quickly, and in today's video I'm going to show you the 6 path effects that you get in the first section, which is the Edit/Tools path effects. Hello my friends, welcome back to another Inkscape tutorial. My name is Rob from Button Press Graphics, and today I'm going to be showing you the first 6 path effects. But before I continue, let me just say I'm sorry for no upload last week. I had an abscess, but it is all better now. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now the first path effect that I want to run through is corners. This one is very simple and easy to use, just like most of the 6 that you get at the top of the menu. So in order to do this one, we need something to apply the corners onto. And as you can see, I've just created a standard rectangle. Now at the moment I've not made any changes to this. It is just a transparent fill, so there's no fill as you can see in the bottom left corner, and there is a blue stroke, and that is pretty much it. Now in order to actually apply any path effects, you need your path effects menu open. You can find that by going to Path and then scrolling all the way down until you get to Path Effects. Click that and this little menu will open here. Now with this rectangle already selected, I'm going to click this little drop down button here, and it will bring up all the path effects that I can place onto this object. Now as I said, in this video I'm going to be going over these 6 here in the top section, which is the Edit/Tools section. So I'm going to select corners, and now we will have something that looks like this. Now when it comes to the radius, that is the radius of the corners that you want to apply. Then you have the units, which I always have pixels. The method is auto, and then you've got the chamfer steps, which is 1. By default, these will all be like they are here, but for what we want, we are going to go straight over onto the canvas and take a closer look at our object. Now as you can see, we have our 3 standard nodes on the corners, but now we also have 4 circle nodes near each corner as well. Now in order to edit these, we need to be on our Edit Paths by Nodes tool. So select your node tool from the left hand toolbar, and then when we click and we drag, we can now curve any corner that we want. And as you can see, I have now created 3 curved corners. But you can go a little bit further than this, and these are the options at the bottom here: fillet, inverse chamfer, and chamfer. By default we have fillet on, so that means it will curve gradually in one direction. But if we inverse it, you will get something that looks a little bit like this. You can also then use a chamfer, which will just cut off in a straight line with all the corners that we have selected. And we've got the inverse as well, which will do exactly the same. Now it is worth mentioning that you can get to this tool maybe with not as many options, but you can use this tool by just using a simple method. If you create a square or rectangle like so, as you can see we have the 2 resize nodes on each corner, but then we have this circular one as well. By clicking and dragging that, we can curve all of the corners at the same time, as you can see. And if we ever want to get back to sharp corners again, we can use this button right here that says Make Corners Sharp. Next we have our knot. So firstly, we are going to create two shapes that we want to use as our basis. I'm going to use the squares and rectangles tool again. I'm just going to create a rectangle in the middle and then another one going vertically, just like so. Now again, I am making sure that I have no fill and just the stroke, and that is it. Now I'm going to use my select tool so I can select both of them, and then I'm going to use path, object to path. Now the reason I'm doing this is so it becomes easier for the computer to recognize what I am using and what shapes that need to be layered over the top of each other. Now with them both selected, we cannot apply a path effect onto it. As it says here, select only one path, shape, clone or group. So we're going to need to group these together. Now you can group them together by selecting this button right here on the right hand side, or this toolbar might be up at the top here, or you can Control and G and that will group them together. And now as soon as we do, we have group 5 right here, and we are able to apply the path effect. So we're going to select not, and there we go. We now have our knot effect, and as you can see, it has cut off certain sections in the center right here, enabling us to layer or go under each one and give a really cool knot effect. Now in order to use this, we can edit the gap length. Now if we increase this gap length to say 5 and then keep an eye on this section here, as you can see, it lengthens the gap in between the lines. Alternatively, if we lower it to 1, it looks like there's no gap at all. Increase it a little bit more, and as you can see, as we increase, the gap becomes more and more noticeable. Now, as you can see, in units of stroke width has been checked. That means it's going to use my stroke width as the basis for how it designs the knot. You can have gaps in both, like this, so it will create a gap in both directions. And you can inverse it as well if you want. But for now, we're just going to turn these two off, leave the units in stroke width on. And now I'm going to show you a little trick, which is for the switcher. By using our node tool, you will see this little node appear and the circle that goes around it. Now if we come up to our menu again, the switcher size, if I increase that to say 25, as you can see, that circle has become a lot bigger. So if you're trying to work on something a lot smaller and you cannot see the switcher properly, then increase the switcher size. Alternatively, you can also, of course, decrease it. Now when you select this by clicking it, as you can see, it will switch between having them all joined, having one going vertically or horizontal. Also, you can click and drag it to any of the intersecting points and do exactly the same again. And that is pretty much how to use the knot tool. The next LPE that we're going to be going over is the offset. Now, there are a lot of people who are fully aware of the offset path effect, because you can normally access it by going path and then using the dynamic offset and the linked offset. They are right here, and usually they're the ones you're going to use the most. But you can also use a path effect to do exactly the same. By selecting an object, and in this case I have a standard star, we can come over to our path effects and we can select offset. Now we have all of these options as well. Again, we are going to use our node tool in order to edit this path effect. Now, as you can see, we have our 3 nodes. 2 of these nodes are standard when you use any polygon tool. So if I was to cancel out of the offset path effect, as you can see, the node that was here has disappeared. That's because these two nodes will allow you to edit the star, like so. However, if we use the offset path effect, we have these options and this extra node. The extra node is exactly what we need. As you can see, we now have our star, but we have the offset as well. And as you can also see, this has not rounded the corners like you would get on the path effect when you use the dynamic offset and the linked offset. Now, of course, you have all of these as well. If we select beveled, for example, it will cut off the corners. By default, when you use it via the path effects menu, you will use the rounded version. So if you want to keep the points and the sharp edges, you can do that by using mitre, just like this. And then you can select the offset as well, increase it or decrease it with this here. So you can get the perfect amount that you want. So as you can see, by using the offset via the path effects menu, it will give you more control over the path effect that you're using. Of course, you can still increase or decrease as much as you want. However, if you want to leave the piece in the middle as well, make sure that you duplicate your shape before you add the path effect. Because as you can see, if I was to decrease this ever so slightly, and then I was to use path, object to path in order to finalize it, all I have done is created the star way smaller. For our next path effect, we need to use the pen tool. Now I'm just going to create a random shape just like this. Now we're going to use power stroke. So with it selected, I'm going to come up to the path effects menu, select power stroke, and as you can see, if you look closely, it has now tapered the corners right here. But if we was to use the node tool, you will see that there are extra nodes now. We have a node here, one in the middle, and one here. The standard nodes, because of when I was creating the line, I used one node there. I bent the node right here, creating a second node, and then finished here, which created the third node. These extra nodes, these diamond ones, are the ones that we need. By clicking and dragging them, you can now fatten up your stroke width in certain places. You can also move it as well. So if you want it to be fatter on one side, you can. And of course, we can move this one as well. And we can make it a whole lot fatter on one end. And then we can have it going to more of a point on the other. And that's pretty much how it works. The smoothness will make it a lot smoother around the curves. And then you can start with a butt, peak, round, square or zero width when it comes to your caps at the very end of the stroke. Now by the start cap, that means this node here, and your end cap will be this one here. So say we change the end cap to round. Now as you can see, it is more rounded around this part here like it is a circle. And by tweaking these, you can find that you can create some really cool designs. Now say we wanted to use the start cap with a butt. As you can see, it has now given us a square end. A peak will give us a point at the end, depending on where I have it. So it looks more like a pencil. Then you can have round, Then you can also have a square, which is like the butt, but it is a lot smaller. And of course, zero width, which means it will always go to a point. Now for our next path effects, we are going to use Simplify. Now when it comes to Simplify, you can use it by going to Path, Simplify, or holding Control and pressing L. This will simplify your image. And by simplify, that means when you come to your node tool, as you can see, there are a lot of nodes. So by simplifying your image, you are taking away a lot of them nodes and making all of the jagged edges more curved. However, if you go to your path effects and click simplify, you now will get all of these different modes here that you can individually tailor to your needs. And as you can see, they all move exactly how you would expect. And you can up your complexity and reduce the complexity. So you can increase the amount of simplification by going up. And as you can see, that makes a direct impact on the overall shape. And the more you do it, the smoother it all becomes. It's no longer jagged. And the less it takes it back to as jagged as it was. Now, when it comes to the repeat, you can change the number of repeats for simplifying our operation. This is useful for complex paths that need to be significantly simplified. So that basically means when you use your simplify, it is going to simplify what you have. However, if it is very, very intricate and has a lot of nodes, increasing the repeat can help you massively because it is going to allow you to simplify on a much broader scale. Now the default is set to 1. Now you can also simplify with the smoothness, the max degree of smoothing. Now if I was to pull this down, as you can see, there are a lot of very sharp corners. But then when I do this, it will not smooth them out as much. So if you want the nodes to be a lot smoother than usual, then using that can help. And your handle size as well, that is for your individual handles. As you can see, they are increasing. And you can simplify each one as much as you like. And you can get more of a dynamic curve or point to whatever you're trying to simplify. Once you are done, you can go up to your path menu and object to path. And as you can see, it has now taken away all the unnecessary nodes. So you have the shape that you want, but now all the nodes in between that you didn't need before in order to keep that shape have now disappeared. So the benefit from using Simplify Path Effect over simply going to Path and Simplify is it will not approximate what you want. It will give you way more control over the shape that you want to keep. And finally, the last path effect that I'm going to cover today is Taper Stroke. This is one that I use quite frequently because it comes in really handy when you're making illustrations. On a basic level, when you use a stroke, say we want to create a stroke that looks like this. Now if I come to my node tool, you can see there are 4 nodes. Now if I want to keep all of this the same width apart from the very ends of an open stroke path, we're going to use the fill and stroke menu. We're going to increase the width to say 10 so it's noticeable for you. Let's increase it more than that. And let's keep going. Let's go 50. There we go. Now as you can see, we have a very squared cap. And we can even round it if we wanted to, but that's still not giving us the effect that we want. There is no option in order to make it a perfect point. Well, there is. You can use the path effect of taper stroke. Now, as you can see, the taper stroke has only applied to the ends, and 2 new nodes have appeared, one here and one right here. Now, by clicking and dragging these with your node tool, you can see the effect that it has straight away. Now, it juttering left and right is just a glitch, so do not worry about that. But as you come down, you can now taper this until you get a very significant curve going towards the very end of your path. And you can move this as far back as you want. If you want it to be a much longer taper, then you can do so. And now you get something that looks a lot more convincing. And there you have it, my friends. The first 6 path effects that you can use from the edit/tools section. If you found this useful, please let me know in the comments. And if you would like me to cover the next section of path effects, also please let me know in the comments and I will do that. But this is going to be a longer video, of course, so if you would prefer that I stick to the shorter videos, please let me know. Did you know that you can become a member of the Button Press Graphics YouTube channel? Well, now you do. You will get a lot of added benefits and you will directly support the channel, enabling me to make much better content in the future. Also, you can send in your artwork into the Creative Corner. This is a regular section where I will showcase your work in a future video. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to bid you all a fond farewell and I will see you next time.